But
Yo, what up, everyone? Welcome on in to another episode of the Berserk PodPlay. That is a podcast combined with a Let's Play. We are joined together with MulletWesker and Hauser. You can find Mullet at twitch.tv/MulletWesker, and you can find Hauser at youtube.com/HauserChillAndPlays. What's up, guys? How you doing today?
As good as can be with
I mean,
the news.
Yes.
about the same.
Yeah. So this episode has to be dedicated to Kentaro Miura. Shocking, horrible news. I was devastated when I heard it.
I literally spent like an hour at work when I got into my shift just confirming that it was fucking real and not like a horrible prank.
Dude, right? When I first heard it, I was working and editing videos late at night. And I took a short break to look at Discord and see what's going on. And I look in Jam's channel, and he said Kentaro passed away. And my first reaction, I literally typed in his channel, like, don't you dare say that. Like, don't you fucking dare. And then, of course, I had to Google it to double check, and I was like, oh, fuck, no way. It was just horrible.
Same.
Yeah, because I had such a, like, wave of emotions. I don't know about you guys, but just for a few hours, I had this endless wave of, like, sadness, rage, confusion, like, just all kinds of things. Go ahead.
I had just a week prior was talking with a friend of mine about what would be devastating mangas that weren't finished. And he said his top three were Oda with One Piece. And he said, I think he'd just work himself to death. Like he's somebody who's just crazy with like pushing out work.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the person's name, but Hunter x Hunter, he's really worried that's not going to finish.
Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, Berserk.
Ugh.
And little did we know he was already fucking gone.
Yeah, that's the other crazy thing is it happened like weeks ago. May 6th, I believe.
Yeah.
Yep. That's the day he officially passed.
Ugh. I remember I was getting mad because at one point I was like, why did you have to take so many hiatuses? Damn it, no! Like,
fucking idol master.
I know, it's just those mix of feelings right away. You don't know what to do. Because we didn't just lose one of our favorite writers. In a way, we also lost our favorite story. And I mean, it's gonna continue, so like saying the story is dead is an exaggeration, but it won't be the same.
Is it going to continue?
It's got to. I gotta imagine someone's gonna pick it up and finish it in some way. I'm sure there's some legal things they have to figure out.
Someone's gonna pick it up and try to finish it in the sense that there's money being left on the table. But on the other hand, like, I don't give a shit about that. I give a shit that whoever decides to wrap it up has even half the talent that, Miura had.
Yes.
And that's why I'm like, don't even finish it. Just leave it, man.
Just depends on how much was known of his plan, like how much he let just between, his publishers, his editors, his assistants, how much of his plan they knew. Because if they don't know anything, absolutely stop it. Like, do not continue that story. It's over. Mm-hmm. If he had pretty extensive treatment for the remainder, I'm sure there are people who could carry on his torch, and he would be happy they carried on his torch. But
if I remember correctly, I read something where he did share like his overall thoughts on how the story was going to end with either his publisher or his like business partner or whatever it was. I could be wrong there. I don't remember the exact link I was looking at, but I do remember seeing that somewhere.
I've read a lot of just like secondhand comments on various forums saying that he had a assistant, maybe more, that was helping him. So it sounds like, I don't know for how long, it sounds like for some amount of time he wasn't working on this alone, even though that was always my impression.
Right.
He was the sole writer and artist. So I mean, someone out there knows where the story was going, I'm sure. I don't know if he was a George R.R. Martin who just on a fly changes his own plot because he got bored of it.
Yeah.
I
That's
don't
the real
think so,
catch.
because we've been trying to get Casca to this elf island for literally like more than a decade, maybe 2.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah. I personally think it will continue after some time. It won't be the same. It won't be exactly the same, but I want to believe he shared his thoughts with someone. Maybe I'm being too hopeful, but I have to believe that someone knows at least the general direction he was going for.
Out of curiosity, have you seen what the manga he was working on with his assistants, where the assistants were the sole artists?
no, I heard that he had a new
Um,
series in the works.
I'll have to throw you guys in it, but I honestly, the assistants, they have his art style. Like they know what how he does it. Like it's
Really?
not his, but they could do it. It's just I don't want to put that on them though. That's a tall order, but they are very good.
Yeah, there's probably
Yeah.
no one who wants to be the guy that has to finish Berserk.
Yeah, that's like when you're about to go on stage and the person right before you got a standing ovation. Like, you're gonna be nervous and intimidated to continue that.
Absolutely.
I'm starting the game, FYI, just before we get into this. Spoiler warnings. They're gonna happen. If you haven't finished Berserk, first of all, fucking do it. Do it. And there's gonna be spoilers. We're gonna talk about all kinds of stuff. The premise today is actually how we think the story would end, or just cool ways the story would have ended. So we're definitely going to be talking about the end of the story and just spoilers. So fair warning to everyone out there. But I say let's get started.
So today's topic is to refresh ourselves and everyone listening.
Yes, the topic today is just how we think the story was going to end, and then also what cool ways it could have been. Not necessarily the endings that we think would have happened, but just cool endings in general.
Okay, who's going first?
Well, I can start if you guys aren't ready yet.
I've
I'll
got
start,
ideas,
actually.
but yeah,
Looks like we're all
I'm
ready.
good and going anywhere. Yeah, no, like I've had hunches for years.
All right.
Well, so my answer is going to be a bit more broad. I can't really break it down into nothing super specific. But so to get my word vomit out there, currently where we left off is that Guts and Casca made it to the island, the Elf Island, and for all intents and purposes, Casca seems to have been cured of, her affliction.
Right.
But she can't even look at Guts yet, let alone talk to him, because then it all just comes rushing back, right? The eclipse and the betrayal and everything.
Correct.
So maybe in a perfect world, we quite literally have a superhero team up of Guts and Casca and Skull Knight and Isidro and Shirka and all the other characters, and they just are the RPG party making their way to go kill the big bad Griffith. But that quest in itself poses lots of nuanced problems, mainly being Griffith is now like a beloved king of all the people of who he's not just, made their lives better, but he's lifting them up to a whole new level of sustainability with his kingdom and his combined army of humans and demons fighting other demons and other countries is weird. It's like an example of doing bad stuff for the greater good, partnering with demons and stuff.
Right.
Oh,
And it's like, how is
Griffith's
he
all about
keeping
that
all those
greater good.
demons satiated? Besides, like, you're telling me they're just gonna fight each other in their secret little arena, and that's gonna control their bloodlust when there's no war? What's Griffith gonna do when, peace has been achieved, right?
I honestly don't think he cares.
I think he'll just kill anything that, like, if a demon starts getting out of line, I think he'll just kill it.
That's-
Probably, but
he's-
what happens happens when the other members of the God Hand, come knocking on the door and they're like, "Yo,"
That's the real question.
Right. I mean, we know what Griffith's goal has been. He's been trying to complete it this entire time, and he's doing very damn well. A lot of good progress towards that goal. But what does what does Slan want and Void want? I mean, we still know so little about the God Hand.
Christ, you're right. I didn't even think about the God Hand.
And then why is it after every so many years the God Hand needs to be remade?
So, I think it's about resetting the world. So right now you got a situation where all these demons and all these different dimensions, I guess we'll call them. I'm forgetting the exact word they use for it. Planes of existence, is that it?
Maybe.
It's
interstice that we're in.
Yeah. And anyways, I think it's all about resetting the world. So like everyone's getting put into the same world right now, and then the God Hand, part of the cycle is to bring one of the God Hand, which would be Griffith, Femto, into that world to then do whatever. Maybe it is conquering it, or maybe that's just Griffith's version of it, but to affect the world to the point where it needs to be reset. Obviously, I like you say, I don't know enough about the God Hand to give sufficient evidence to how to prove that theory. But that's what I think, because the overlying story is all about the cycle and how the cycle works for everything. Because I don't think Void, which Void is like the leader of the God Hand, I don't think he would have made Griffith a God Hand if Griffith's ideals and goals didn't coincide with his own. You know what I mean?
Right. Okay.
All right.
I see what you're getting at. So with the world being reset, Griffith is sort of the head guy who's really pushing that progress forward by helping basically restore Midland into Falconia.
Yes.
But that's just Midland, though. I mean, is this a worldwide thing?
Yes, because there's like a ton of countries going to Midland for protection. Like you see, I'm forgetting the name of the country, but the like Bakaraka country and
Deshaun.
Yeah, thank you. There's groups, tons of them working for Griffith right now. So like other countries are all molding into one. Now, what does that mean being reset? Is everyone gonna die at the end? Or is it just gonna be one big country that then goes on and does its own thing? And then this whole story just becomes like a legend and myth? It's hard to say.
I don't know, and I also want to say that I think you're onto something, but I also think you're not onto something, because I feel like if that were the case, we would have more clues at this point.
That's fair. Yeah.
We've always only been told, as recently as, if I recall, 2019, we're in the back half. We could literally be at like 53%.
Oh no.
I know that's not what any of you want to hear.
I thought we were near the end.
It's true. I don't think we're anywhere near the end. I think there might be a lot of motives that are waiting to be revealed, and it could be the big ones that actually finally make it go, oh shit.
What?
Just like the kind of motive tier, like, oh, that's why the God Hand were so invested in Griffith, stuff like that.
Sorry, your acting was too good. I thought you like something happened on your end.
Oh, no, we're good.
I thought you were like reacting to something. Oh man.
Oh no.
Nope, that's Hauser for you.
I'm very emotive. I missed a career choice.
Oh man.
So I mean, just to let me close my argument here, I think one of the original intentions was for Griffith to eventually, be killed by Guts. the other wrench that kind of gets thrown in that idea, though, is Guts isn't exactly the guy who would be the best to convince all of Falconia that their ruler is actually evil and needs to die.
No.
You know, if Guts walked right on up to that place and knocked on the door, probably wouldn't go so well. But I definitely see some kind of Guts and Zod team up in the future. Because Griffith, as strong as he is not it's not going to be a Guts versus Griffith kind of situation, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's going to take all of his allies and probably some unexpected players, aka Zod, to really even the playing field there. Because I don't think Zod is happy just working for Griffith, killing things on his behalf. Zod wants to fight challenging opponents, and there's only one of those, and that's Guts.
Right.
You really think?
Well, fighting Griffith
absolutely.
is kind of out of Zod's league right now, which was
It's out of his league because the God Hand would kill him for it.
Yeah, well, Griffith could kill him.
Griffith could kill him. The Zod Hand, or the God Hand.
The Zod Hand.
The God Hand. Yeah.
You're on
God
something there,
Hand
the Zod Hand.
Yeah.
probably wouldn't, stand for it. So, yeah, there's a lot to unpack there.
Well, let's talk about this. How do you think that fight would go? Because going with what you're saying, Guts is fighting an army. He's not just fighting Griffith anymore. He's fighting
He's fighting an army.
Now, with where the story currently is at, Guts is kind of in league to get his own army. Like, he has his RPG party, right? Which could be generals of the army. But now he's meeting entire islands filled with witches. He has mermaids on his side. Like, he has some forces that will help him if needed. So we could see an all-out war here. That may have been the plan.
Would that have been Guts' style, though?
Yeah.
Well, he might have to, because here's the thing. Guts' character
was the
changed.
commander of the Raiders, so
Good point.
basically became the leader of the Band of the Hawk for about 2 days. And every member of the Band of the Hawk was like, absolutely, Guts, we will die for you.
Yes.
No question. And he had quit. He had quit for a year. And the day he comes back, they're like, yeah, man, nothing can keep us down.
Yeah.
That's true.
God, man, maybe the whole moral of the story is that you just can't lone wolf it.
You can overcome your tragedies and struggle on, I guess.
The endless struggle. I think it would make a lot of sense to have an army, because Guts is changing as a character, right? He used to be the lone wolf, and he went through a lot of pain and punishment, but now he can't even use his berserker armor without Shrika. Sorry, I always get that name wrong. Shirka. He can't use it to its full extent without her being there, kind of controlling it. So he definitely can't be a lone wolf, especially with Casca around, even though she's got her mind back. But there is a reason why during the Black Swordsman arc he leaves Casca alone, because he knows he can't protect her and also go on his crusade of murder
quest for revenge all at the same time.
Right.
I mean, there was a brief period of time where he brought her, like before he recruited, like Pharnacy and whatnot, where she was with him, and it was awful looking.
Not initially. I mean, initially he left her behind with Godo.
But it was after what was it? Did Godo die? Oh god, I can't remember what happened. But there was that brief period between, or was it after Conviction?
Where they were traveling together?
The Conviction arc is when he goes back to Godo to get his sword fixed and to check up on Casca, and they're like, yeah, Casca's not here, and he's like, what the fuck? And Conviction arc is where he essentially is following in her footsteps to hunt her down and get her back.
Okay, so
and from that
I'm
point
mixing up
on,
orders.
Casca is with him.
I just remember the scene where he's having that nightmare and he starts strangling her.
Yes.
Wait, which scene is that?
It was very specific. Like when
I'm just saying, like, he has a lot of nightmares.
It's
well,
when
I mean, he
has
doesn't strangle
Casca.
Casca very often.
Yeah, it's the one where he gets Casca back for the first time, and like the wolf inside him takes control, and his like basically his horniness gets the best of him, and then he wakes up and he's like gnawing on Casca's tit and choking her and doing awful things.
Jeez,
Yeah.
I do not remember that.
You don't?
It was pretty harsh. There were moments where it went pretty hard.
Yeah. And like he freaked out. He's like, "What the fuck am I doing?" Like, holy
This
shit.
must have been years ago.
Oh yeah. It was a long time ago. I mean, it was before he had his party.
Yeah, it was shortly after the conviction arc.
All right. So, anyway, where were we going with this?
We were talking about how Guts might have an army, and how Guts is changing to the point where he's not a lone wolf. He needs people, and he understands that now.
Yeah.
So that very much might be the end arc, where he has an army of mystical creatures that will help him out and distract the the Midland army, we'll call it, while he goes and kills Griffith. Now, I don't think what I'm about to say is necessarily how it will end, but there was something you brought up a few episodes ago, Mullet, that I thought was really interesting.
Okay.
And that was Guts. I keep saying those names wrong. I don't know what's wrong with me. But Guts fights Griffith and he dies. I brought that up. And you made a good point that you would only like that if that changed Griffith's character finally. If he finally had a change of heart.
I mean, you can't just end a story on the main character losing and nothing comes of it. Unless the main character is not a good person and the entire point is that they lost, and maybe we were following their point of view for a specific reason the writer was interested in. But if they end up having the one-on-one between Guts and Griffith wins, which is quite likely, I would really hope that Griffith just kind of looks down and for a moment is like, damn,
yeah, what have I done?
This guy has had power over me the day I met him. When you think about it, everything Griffith did was to keep Guts alive and to use him as a wrecking ball to further his career for the King of Midland. And then when Guts struck him down and quit the Band of the Hawk, that shattered Griffith's, ego harder than he ever thought it could be. It resulted in him, seducing the princess, getting caught, being tortured, being maimed. It put him in the position where he summoned the God Hand and thought, yes, kill them all, give me power, And I would really hope Griffith would just think about all of that and think, maybe all this killing is, not going to get me what I want. Or even if it does, it may not be, in good faith for the world he's trying to make.
Right. Like, he starts questioning his goals, which would be, like, the first time he's ever done that.
Right.
I think that's super interesting, because I thought about that even farther, about specifically how it would end. And I would say Guts himself would have to fight the entire God Hand, right? Well, not himself, but like Guts and Shriek would be helping him with his Berserker armor and maybe some other members. But I would say Guts would kill like the two lesser God Hands that we don't know much about.
The little round guys?
Yeah, the two round guys. I don't even know their names. And then Slan, is it? Or Slain? Slan?
Slan.
Yeah, Slan and Femto and Void would just fuck him up. They would team up and they'd screw him. Just destroy
hold
him.
on. Femto no longer exists now, right?
Does he not?
Kind of.
Well, no. Femto and Griffith they're the same. And Femto essentially went through another rebirth so he could have his human form back, which is what Griffith is now.
Yeah, so I guess I don't know what you would call that then. I guess femto or human femto Griffith.
Basically, if you're not counting Griffith, there's only 4 God Hand. There's the 2 round guys, Slon and Void.
Well, I'm counting femto and Griffith as the same person. So whatever form they're at right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you meant like their bodies were split and they were different characters now.
No. I'm saying they're the same. But like
okay,
Griffith.
my apologies. Continue.
No, it's good. So I'll change it to Griffith, Slon, and I keep running into stupid fire that I can't see. Sorry. Slon and Void would kill Guts, right? It would just be too much for Guts to overcome. And then what would happen is Griffith would have that moment that you talked about where he's like, looks at Guts' body and sees like, oh shit, this is crazy, starts questioning his goals, starts questioning everything he's done, and then we'll have a change of heart, and Griffith will kill Slon in one move, because she won't be expecting it, and then the last fight will be between Griffith/Femto versus Void. And perhaps Griffith will win, and the cycle will be broken. I think that would be a cool ending. Like I say, I don't think that's necessarily how it would end, but I think it would be pretty cool.
I've had such a bleaker view on where this was headed.
You do?
Yeah.
Well, hit us.
So I always thought Shurka was going to get killed at some point.
We talked about this before. I like where you're
and
going.
That is just going to unleash hell. Guts is no longer containable. Nothing will contain him. And he is going to kill everyone in Falconia, fully just berserked out. He's going to slaughter everyone, including Griffith, and he's just going to be viewed as this demon of the land. Because I just don't see a good outcome for anything.
That's a little anticlimactic for me, honestly.
I mean, there's obviously a lot of ways where that could be really improved, but I just don't see a positive outcome. And I think the best way you could really unhinge Guts is killing off Shurka. Because, like, what is he going to do now?
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, what is he going to do
where
if the Berserker armor takes him over and then there's nothing he can do at that point?
It's just game on. He's able to go ape shit.
So we kind of talked about this, actually, about characters dying in the last episode. I believe it was the last episode. And we talked about Shriek dying, Shrika. And if that would happen, I would say yes, Guts would be on a path of rampage to where he would be this demon of the land that you speak of. He'd be murdering, just killing all these demons, killing some God Hand evil, even just going nuts. But then Flarnice will have to step up because she is a very talented witch, which was proven in the last few chapters.
Yes.
And she will then control Guts. And then Guts will come back and control his armor better and keep fighting the way he likes to fight instead of rage mode. A controlled rage, if you will. That's the little twist I would give on your idea there.
The only thing with that is, hasn't Miura been on record saying like there is probably like laughed like, yeah, no, there's probably not a happy ending for Guts and Casca?
Maybe, but fuck, man.
There's a lot of things
anyone
that are
knows
just
it,
from
it's
like
them.
interviews. Yeah, they really do. Like, but wouldn't that just be like? It's such a hard thing to balance. Like, what line of misery is like? Where is the line that they're not willing to cross? And so far, there hasn't been a line they've not been willing to cross in this series. Like, I really do. Like, I hope we get a good positive we would get a good positive ending. Like, Guts deserves it, man. They both deserve it. They both deserve a happily ever after. But I just don't see that how it goes.
I would argue it depends on what his view of happy is, because you look at everyone who has died in the series, and there's not really happy endings for anyone. You could argue that there are some peaceful deaths. Godo,
No,
yeah.
he got outcasted, and no, his wasn't really great either.
No. Here's what a happy ending is in Miura's eyes: dying doing what you love.
I was waiting for that to come up.
Right?
Yeah.
And for Guts, at first, he probably settled on, I'm happy swinging my sword. At first it was, I'm happy to swing it for myself, then for Griffith, then for myself again, then in the pursuit of revenge, and that thought has probably gone in and out of his mind 1,000 times on his quest. But now, Guts would probably, be most content with Casca and all of his friends, his current friends at his side.
Right. He doesn't want to lose what he has a second time.
Again. Right.
That would be the cruelest part if he starts killing people off in that party. Like, I don't want it. I don't see another outcome of for Serpico or Farnacy or some characters, but fuck, I don't want it. He doesn't deserve to lose his party again. Or his friend.
Someone's gonna die. And one person is gonna die. My idea is that Flarnice will actually be the one that dies. Because there's this whole underlying thing about Serpico hating, not hating Guts, but he mentions that, hey, if anything happens to Flarnice, all gloves are off. I'm coming for you. So there's been a lot of hints at that.
I think at this point, Serpico would understand that unless Guts is actually responsible for her death, he's not going to come after Guts just because she ended up dying in a battle she chose of her own will,
Well, right. It would have to be one of those shady things where maybe Serpico didn't see it, or, it's kind of in that gray area where he's not sure if it was her choice. Maybe he feels that Guts put her up to it. That's how it would have to be written for it to make sense. But if anyone's gonna die, I would say she would be the one. My second guess would then be Shrika, like what we've already talked about.
Could also, it's 1, 2, or everyone. It's not going to be a small. I just don't see a middle ground.
Yeah, I don't see him killing everyone off again. I just don't see it.
No, it would have to be a really good reason.
Yeah, they would have to all die, but then kill the God Hand or something. Something huge would happen to justify that. Because this time,
maybe.
Go ahead.
Maybe it will be a Avengers Endgame situation where maybe it's okay. No. Here's what may actually be planned by Miura. So we're all on the island. Casca's recovering. She's training to be more like herself, but she can't look at Guts yet, right? She can't even hear his voice without losing it.
Right.
And so now Guts has a place where he can leave Casca in the hands of people he trusts once again. So it will be Guts and Skull Knight and Shirka that leave the island to find Griffith.
Ooh, that'd be a fun route.
Because Guts literally is not doing anything by staying there. He's not helping Casca by staying there or being there at all. So
True.
Now maybe this may not be okay, it's time to go kill Griffith quest, but this is we've been so far away from Griffith, we don't even know where he is or what he's doing or who he's surrounded himself with, and maybe it's more of a recon situation where they need to go back out into the world and find out what's going on. And then when Casca's ready, when Farness is ready, when the mermaids are ready, and everyone else they've made allies with can, fight alongside them, that's when they decide, okay, now we have to go after Griffith and Falconia.
I feel like I need to reread some parts of the later chapters on Elfheim, but I don't know if Casca's got it in her 100% to kill Griffith or even fight him.
Bro, if Casca's not willing to go on that quest, what the fuck has all this been for?
I mean, that could be exactly it, though.
If there's one person that she should try and kill without even second guessing it,
100%. But I kind of recall a comic or two, or a manga, or one of the page chapters or two that were like, oh, fuck. I'm gonna have to reread parts of it because I am like totally talking out of my ass. But like, I felt like there was an inferring. It also could be a translator too. They could be inferring something that isn't meant to be inferred.
I think
that's the downside of localized things.
I think I can remember what scene you're getting at, and I too cannot remember exactly what's
There's
going
only
on.
like 3 or 4 chapters that it could come from. So actually, while we're having this discussion, I'm gonna go on that dive to make
Fair
myself feel less crazy.
The only way I would see that is Casca would like be like, yeah, I fucking hate the guy too, but it's not worth throwing our lives away. You know, she doesn't think Guts could actually win that fight, and she's
that's
just
the real
like,
angle,
right? Like, let's not. Did my game just crash? All right, guys. Sorry, we had a little technical difficulties, so we had to cut short right there. My game crashed, but we're back into it. And Mullet was just saying some cool things about Zod. So Mullet, you want to repeat that?
So yeah, just let me rewind, a little bit. So I brought up the idea that while Casca's recovering on Elf Island and Farnes is training, that Shirka, Guts, and Skull Knight would leave the island because Guts isn't doing Casca any favors by being there, so the manga has shown us. I'm being a little vague because, read it, please. And what if, while Guts, Skull Knight, and Shirka are out doing this reconnaissance on Griffith and Falconia, they run into Zod, and they essentially have a conversation, and I'll give you the spark notes. It's, Guts saying, I understand you want to kill us and that we want to kill you, or so that's how all of our past interactions have gone. And that's when they essentially have the conversation that they want to kill Griffith and they know the hell that it's going to be. But if they had Zod on their side, one of the few other unkillable characters in this story, or at least he seems like that so far, then their chances just go up a couple more notches, right, of killing Griffith and winning. And also, side note, did Guts ever find out that Zod threw him that sword in the Golden Age arc when his sword shattered?
He's gotta know, right? Like, I don't think we've had an exact scene where Guts is like, oh, I think that was Zod.
I'm pretty sure he had a hunch because he looked at the sword, and there might be like a little panel of like him seeing Zod's silhouette in like a thought, But I don't know if he doesn't know for 100%, and I think it would be interesting if Zod brought it up, and then Zod could be like, actually, I haven't tried to kill you every time I saw you, and remind him of that.
Yeah,
and that would be Zod's way of saying, I'm with you, but
you are right. He does have that moment where he's looking at the sword and he's like, it couldn't be, could it?
Yeah, like there's no way this sword just fucking flew out of the goddamn heavens for me.
Right. So that would definitely be a cool angle to see Zod on their side. I don't know how that dynamic would work though. I'm trying to justify it in my head because Guts and Zod don't really hate each other necessarily. They don't really have anything personal against each other other than just Zod's a demon and Guts is a really good fighter.
Well, I mean, you could take it a step deeper and say, Zod almost single-handedly destroyed all of Guts' raiders the first time they met.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. So I guess there is a little personal.
That's water under the bridge now, probably, but you considering how much, heavier things have gotten since then. But yeah. Guts has got to put together a team, and he's got to put together the teamiest team there has ever teamed in order to stand up against Griffith. And so Zod, to me, is the next logical guy to be like, yeah, fuck this. I don't really care. Because also, think about it this way. if Griffith gets the world he wants where everything is peaceful, what the fuck is Zod gonna do?
That's true.
There's no place for him in Griffith's world.
That is true.
There's just a place for him on the journey, but no longer in the destination.
Maybe that's how they convince him, is they're like, well, what are you gonna do after all this is done? And Zod's like, I don't know.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
so that would definitely be an interesting thing. I could see it. I could definitely see it. I'm just trying to think of, like, the specifics. That's where I'm having trouble with.
oh yeah, same. I mean, how does that first interaction go? Surely they're all gonna try and kill each other. Or maybe Zod starts to try to kill Guts, and Skull Knight's like, ahem, we gotta talk. You know?
Right.
Let's learn more about Geyserak or Geyserak and Zod's relationship, shall we?
The who? You mean the, like, diamond dragon guy?
No, Skull Knight. Skull Knight
guy.
was
Sorry.
King Geyserak.
Sorry, I'm not used to it hearing his real name.
I know, right? It's only been mentioned like twice.
Yeah. That would be cool, because in that conversation you could learn a lot about their relationship.
Right.
Maybe they did work together once, and Skull Knight's like, come on, we can team up again. We did it once.
Yeah. I mean, Zod and Guts have teamed up once out of pure necessity.
True. Did that cool lightning attack.
Yep. Absolutely. I mean, Miura is not the type of writer, in my opinion, to do something just because it's fucking cool. Like,
No, everything seems so far has been so planned. It seems.
correct.
Very much so.
He's not really a rule. I mean, there's definitely some cool stuff that happens in the fights, but you know, he puts a lot of thought behind what he does. And
Yes.
yeah, I think Zod would be a member of the Berserk Avengers.
Berserk Avengers. The Berserkers, would you say?
Berserkers. Yes.
There's one important character that hasn't been brought up for that party, and I forgot how important they were. And it's the character that we left off on, the Moonlight Child. That kid was able to get Guts out of the Berserker stance, too.
Oh man, I barely remember that kid.
That,
Yeah.
honestly...
Like, I feel like there is a humongous... That kid is probably one of the most important things in the story, and we don't know shit all about him.
So that is a thing that I am super confused on. That is the one part of the story I just don't know about. And I watched something about people explaining it, and I have to get back to the conviction art and read it, because I know exactly what part I read, and I read it and I was like, I don't really quite understand what they're saying. But basically what this video said was that the Moonlight Child is now Griffith. So the way Griffith came back alive and reincarnated is he used the body of the Moonlight Child. So they are one and the same.
The demon child fetus. I think that, like, there's a soul divergence, and that's why the child's only out at night.
Right.
But Griffith has the body.
And you notice the last time, I could be wrong here, but I'm like 89.50% sure I'm right, that the last time Guts saw the Moonlight Child was on the boat, and he was looking up, and he was looking at that tree pathway thing, whatever. And during... Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I was gonna say, wasn't he looking at him? Or was the boy looking at him in the last panel? Guts didn't see him.
The very last published panel is the Moonlight Child walking right up to Guts on the island.
Oh, really?
So I feel like we just had a year.
I may be down a chapter, guys. Because I don't remember that.
You might be. It's literally the final frame.
Okay. I might be down a chapter, to be honest. I did not know that.
Yes. I just caught up on Thursday. So
I did not realize another chapter was released. Well, shit. I'm going to have to read that. But, okay, then the second to last time the Moonlight Child was there, it was when Guts was on the boat, and he looked up, and the child was in the tree pathway that they used. I forget what they call it. But at that same time, Griffith was also using those trees to travel, like it was after a battle, and he was using those trees.
You're talking like the Sky Bridge thing that
Yeah,
Griffith does.
yeah, they call it like a world tree or something, but yeah, it's a sky bridge, right?
Okay.
And I could be wrong with my time frame there, but I'm like 95% sure that he saw the Moonlight Child at the same time Griffith was in that sky bridge.
Okay.
So I think that is like the current theory, that the Moonlight Child is the same as Griffith. They're the same person.
So you're thinking that there is some kind of weakness to Griffith to be exploited revolving around this child?
Honestly, I wasn't even thinking about that, but now that you bring it up, like, yeah, definitely.
Well, I was thinking of like what Hauser said, that they are two parts of the same person, or a split soul.
Yeah. Because he does... It is strange to see the Moonlight Child, like, constantly be talking to Guts and stuff and helping Guts out. So I can see that.
You got thoughts on that?
I mean, that's my thought was always, I thought it was the soul of the demon child itself, because the demon child is Griffith's seed and Casca's seed, so it's its own being. And when Griffith used that body to become reborn, I think he might have severed the soul, but the soul is still out there because it was a demon.
Okay.
So from there, I couldn't tell you anything from there, because Jesus Christ, we barely see the kid.
Yeah.
Just that that he was the weird Ood, or OD, however that's actually pronounced, that was pulling Guts out of the Berserker armor. So maybe he's obviously got to have a pretty big impact on Guts's mind state or anything to be able to get him out of that state.
Well, he's definitely a powerful being as well.
But what's he gonna like? That's been the thing I've really been racking my brain around. So I don't know if it's Griffith. I don't know if there's any relation to Griffith. I just don't know.
Yeah, it's one of those things, just like the God Hand. You don't know a lot. There's not a lot confirmed.
It feels like they're the main story for, like, I think Griffith might not even be the end game. Like, or maybe he is the ultimate end game, and for all we know, Griffith is just going to slaughter the God Hand.
Yeah, could be. Because then he wants an empire. What's the biggest empire he can get, right? The God Hand.
The world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So...
You know, something that would maybe help shed light on our strange thinking process here is if we just had more clues about what Void's plan is.
Yeah.
I don't know how much this line of dialogue plays into the overall story, but I recall in the Golden Age movies, not the 97 show, when about to kill Griffith in his first appearance and sees the egg of the king, he says something like, so that's their ploy. And I mean, it could just be a throwaway line. I don't know if that's what he says in the manga, but you know, it implies that Griffith was not just randomly chosen, and it implies that Void has some sort of plan, and we really know nothing about it. Just nothing.
True, very true.
Unless, how much do we know about Geyserak's kingdom, and why was he in the Eclipse? Why was he in Guts' position all those years ago with the Berserker armor?
So, I know, we do know our army or whatever was from the last cycle. It was not the current cycle, based on how the timeline goes. We know he dealt with a different God Hand than is the current God Hand.
Save for Void.
Except for Void, right? And not much else. Maybe like little things here and there, but that's pretty much it. Like, we can assume he was in Guts' position, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or
he could have been the Berserker armor on, and we now know. I mean, we don't know a lot about Geyserak, Skull Knight, and and how he survived the eclipse. Other than that, he had the Berserker armor that Guts is wearing.
True. Well, maybe not the exact armor.
No,
But-
it is the exact
Yeah.
armor because the dwarf that made it like bangs on it while Guts is wearing it, and is like,
right,
"I'm gonna
right.
show you a blood memory of this armor." It is that suit.
Right. So
mean,
then
unless-
he has his own a new Berserk armor, the Skull Knight? Because I always assumed that he was also wearing
what the
Berserk
Skull
armor.
Knight is made of / is now wearing is not the Berserker armor he wore during his eclipse.
But it is a Berserker armor? Or no?
No, I don't think it's a Berserker armor at all. It's essentially a new body. It's like putting a soul in a suit of armor or animating a suit of armor, right? That's a concept in all sorts of fantasy
Yes.
stories. I think the Skull Knight has simply had his consciousness put into a completely different metallic body, much in the way like Samuel Hayden in Doom is a guy that downloaded his consciousness to a robot, you know?
Okay.
Is there much of a precedent for golems and stuff like that in Berserk? I don't.
There are
There
the
golems.
witches summon golems.
Yeah, there's totally precedent then for his consciousness being jammed into like a golem or what was it, or like a homunculus.
A
I don't know
homunculus,
if homunculus. Yeah, I mean that's exactly what I'm thinking actually.
yeah. That's like what that's like a new body made through alchemy or something.
Yeah. Combining two live things. Something like
Right.
that.
And that old dwarf on the island even says like, "Wow, I made whatever you're wearing, Skull Knight, and that Berserker armor. I haven't seen them in forever, and they both come to me at the same time.
Mhm.
What are the chances of that?"
Anything else for how you guys think it will end? Specifically how it will end? Any theories?
I mean, broadly, there's either a very convoluted and nuanced plan to build an army on behalf of Guts and go after Griffith, or the real battle lies with Skull Knight and Void, and, you know, Guts has done his part, I guess. I don't know. Maybe Guts' role is just to take down a part of, you know, Void's entourage, part of the God Hand, Griffith, whatever. And or maybe he just calls it quits and he lives here on the island now. I mean, they are literally invisible to the world, and it's more peaceful here than it could ever be anywhere else.
I feel like they're not completely invisible. I feel like if that were the case, Griffith would send an army or something would force their hand, right?
Maybe. But yeah, that's my thinking, is that there's going to be a complicated plan to take down Griffith, which
can see it.
involves
I mean,
Zod.
To be fair, there would have to be some sort of plan. You can't just go running up to Griffith and expect him to
True.
win that fight.
Hauser. You're
Any
like,
thoughts?
I gotta think about
Sorry.
this one.
No, sorry, I've been
Lost in
I've
thought.
been really quickly reskimming through the couple of chapters that I'm thinking, and I'm realizing how little attention I was paying to what was going on with Skull Knight in those chapters, and I'm like, oh my fucking god, they really are building up something much bigger with him right now.
Yes.
Oh yeah, man.
Jesus Christ, I really think we were not barely over the 50% line.
Actually, that's what I was gonna say. I forgot I was gonna say this. We kind of have, I feel, two stories right now, and the one story is ending, which is why you would say like we're at the halfway mark. So the first story would be between Guts and Casca, right? And the eclipse, and just Guts' journey and Casca's journey. And now we've ended that. And now we're starting into God Hand territory, and the story about the God Hand and the cycle and Griffith and Skull Knight. And that's why we haven't heard, we don't know much about these characters, is because their story has barely started.
And it's the real end game. I don't think Guts is just going to disappear. I still think he's going to be the primary character.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
I think his story with Griffith is, unless Griffith is going to be a huge factor in, for all we know, Falconia is going to be like fighting the God Hand, but for completely unrelated reasons. I'm just, oh my god, there really is so much more left.
Yeah, there really
This
is.
sucks. I mean, that's the understatement of the century, but it's like, I really don't know how this is going to get finished.
Yeah. There's just too many unanswered questions. It's most of what we can do is just assume and infer and take our best guess.
I think that's why all of us are looking, not all of us, but like I've always just looked at the end game being Griffith, and it isn't. It can't be. There's just the God Hand have not even been pushed.
Well, yeah. Think about this. If Griffith dies and we roll credits, then this is just going to happen again. Void is still out there.
Yes.
You know. There's going to be another Egg of the King. It's a cycle that happens every couple centuries. So, yeah, there's got to be, because you don't just tell this story for it to all happen over again.
Mm-hmm.
They've set up too much that breaks destiny. You know, Skull Knight being alive this long, the tools of the dwarves and the witches, and Guts' just seeming inability to die. You know, as long as he is struggling to live, no matter how much he gets hurt, he's gonna keep kicking ass and moving on.
Very true. And to kind of play off what you're saying there is the main premise, like you brought up, is all about destiny. So we were kind of hearing that story through Guts and Griffith, but now there's so many more elements to that story, which is basically what you're saying.
Yeah. Typically, I hate stories that bring in a lot of Destiny, Prophecy, Fate bullshit and don't really do anything with it. But, I mean, nothing in Berserk is really destined by fate, even if it seems to be that way at times, because, you know, otherwise Guts and Casca never would have made it out of that eclipse. Skull Knight wouldn't have made it out of his eclipse, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
There are definitely clear factors that people can break destiny.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't know specifically what those factors is. Is it Griffith, or is it Guts' rage that got him out? Is it just willpower? You know, what exactly?
A number of factors.
Humanity.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
Miura has always said this is a story about humans.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you could get from it. But yeah, as far as any good story is based off the premise. He's not telling the story of Guts and Griffith. He's telling a story about this premise of destiny, and he's really using Guts and Griffith as tools, right? That's how any good story is supposed to be told. And he's amazing at telling this story. He's amazing at using his tools. He is a tool master, if you will, you know?
There's never going to be another like him. Even if there are people who could wear his shoes, they can't fill them.
Right. And it's crazy because there's so many people who don't know Kentaro. This is how awesome of a writer he is. There's so many people that
fans of Berserk that don't know they're fans of Berserk.
Exactly. Because so many things are inspired by Berserk that if you haven't seen or heard of Berserk or Kentaro, you at least have seen something that has been inspired by him, right?
Yep.
Dark Souls alone.
Dark Souls is the prime example. Exactly.
Final Fantasy VII.
Final Fantasy, like there's so many things.
Just the giant sword. Good point. I was like, really?
If your RPG medieval fantasy setting world has a guy with a giant sword, there is a fan of Berserk on the production team.
The one big difference is they're usually not this. I love how big Guts. Like Guts is a big dude, and just so many times they give these giant swords into smaller guys, and I'm like, but that's not right. Like he should be a giant.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At least
that's a small
somewhat
nitpick.
believe Guts. It's yeah, I had a guy in my chat the other day he was joking and trying to troll. He's like, "Oh, they just stole from Cloud, right? Guts' sword, they just stole from Cloud." I'm like, "Oh, really? Yeah, right." Like This manga's been around since 1989. Final Fantasy VII was what, 96? Something like
97.
97? Yeah, like
Did this even beat the Final Fantasy franchise, like, to being made? What was that FF1 made?
it's gonna cut it close.
87, it got 2 years. But that doesn't matter because it wasn't, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally different. But yeah, that my overall point is just this inspires so much. Any dark fantasy, they
When
probably
you
have
say
read
dark
Berserk.
fantasy, Berserk is one of the core pillars that established that genre.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
what's fascinating, it's not even like hardcore dark fantasy at its current point. Like, it's kind of lightened up to like more of a gray just throughout its run. Like, there are moments of this huge darkness, but then there's also moments where it's just like right now where everything seems like maybe things could work out.
Very true. In fact, that reminds me of a reaction I had to Guts at one point. That, like, I have grown up since now, and I like this scene, but my first reaction when I was younger, I read this scene where Guts has his RPG party, and he's walking away from this big battle, and he says something like, "Oh wow, I never thought I would have this again." And he was like, it was this like happy saying and whatnot. And
Yeah.
you know, me as a cringy teenager who likes anger and, you know, has all these mental problems, was like, "What? No, he's supposed to be angry and just killing things. This isn't cool." You know?
This
Nowadays,
is,
I'm like,
this is before you understood the importance of arcs and depth and change.
exactly.
in stories.
Exactly. Now I'm like, okay, no, that actually is a very
was needed.
detrimental thing for that character, yeah. But at the time, I laugh at it now because I'm just like, what? Bullshit!
Oh. God, I couldn't imagine his story where he just didn't have that moment of just like, oh my God, I have a family again.
Right? Just Black Swordsman arc.
I
throughout the
recall
whole-
reading online someone saying the same thing at one point. That like they're like, man, this story was better when Guts was on his own and things were dark and he didn't have a bunch of friends to worry about. It's like, I really love the Black Swordsman arc where he is on his own and he's just a bloodthirsty motherfucker killing demons. But that
That's not a good
story is
story.
not gonna sell if nothing ever changes.
Right. It's really cool, but it doesn't
Yeah.
have the depth that the story we have now does.
It's a great fucking arc. Like, it is a good arc to have those rip and tear moments.
Yep. Rip and tear. Yes. I love
Until
it.
it is done.
Yes. And then a lot of people actually say the Black Swordsman arc is useless. It's a useless arc.
Fuck off. You have to consider the way the story started. Okay? If you were to read the Golden Age arc first and then go chronologically, yeah, the Black Swordsman arc is useless. But that's not the way the story started. Kentaro started in the middle. And
Yeah.
he made a very good decision in doing that because, you know, the world is this way, and now we're going to flash back to when the world looks like it could never, ever have become anything like that, and we're going to show you that progression, and that's essentially the setup for the real story, you know?
Right.
The Golden Age is the Metal Gear Solid prologue before the rest of the game.
It's Metal Gear Solid 3.
Yeah.
Fuck that. Like, it's just, I think, you know, I couldn't imagine, because like technically I started with Golden Age because my introduction was the movies. Like, that's when I first started really getting into Berserk. And then I read Black Knight, or not Black Knight,
Black Swordsman.
Black Swordsman, and I still thought it was great. Like, I'm really confused. Like, that some people like it saying it's useless. Like, technically, yeah, you could, but having it being a flash, you know, lead to a flashback, like, that's such good storytelling.
I could agree.
Well, it's also important because it shows you where Guts starts in the Golden Age. It shows you where he is in the Black Swordsman arc, and he is reminded of his humanity before he just regressed into this hunk of iron swinging murderer.
Yeah.
I love
You know?
your choice of regress because that's very important. But real quick, I would agree that maybe it went a little long, to prove the point that it was trying to prove. But you know, the Kentaro's great at backstories, and every demon that he makes has a sweet backstory and story to it that I really can't complain. But the coolest thing, and I've realized this recently because I started rereading it from scratch for the 3rd time or whatever, and the Black Swordsman arc is like you say, Mullet, he's regressed. It went back to his days before the Band of the Hawk, where he was a lone wolf and he isn't handling his emotions well, and he's, you know, just fighting for fighting's sake. You know, he doesn't really have a goal. He doesn't have a dream. He's just bloodthirsty because that's what he knows.
Yeah. He's gone back to swinging the sword because that's all he knows.
Yeah, the arc is all about how Guts handles the eclipse. That's what it comes down to. It's about his mentality and his unhealthy way of handling the eclipse, which is understandable. You know, I don't think anyone
unhealthy but fair.
Exactly, right. It's
right.
And that's the amazing thing, because what takes him out of that is the only thing that can take him out of that is Casca, and that's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And then the thing that keeps him out of that is the RPG party that he eventually forms. But that is the genius of the Black Swordsman arc and how integral it is to the story. It wouldn't make sense for Guts to just go on from the eclipse and be like, all right, let's blah blah blah, let's go have a happy life. Like, no. That doesn't happen, right? You
don't walk away from that intact,
right? He's gonna have some
even
crazy,
even if he wasn't branded and demons weren't chasing him all the time, he still wouldn't just walk away from that and call it a day.
No.
Exactly. So yeah, the argument that the Black Swordsman arc is useless is pretty outlandish.
Like, honestly, arguably laughable. Like, what?
Yeah. I could see someone arguing that it's a little long. I could definitely see that. He fights like what, half a dozen demons during that arc? I'm combining the manga, the Black Swordsman arc, and the 2 demons he fights in the very beginning.
If you're talking about from the eclipse to the point where he goes back to Godo to return to Casca, I mean, he kills the one that shows up to Godo's place. He kills the snake count. He kills the fat count, the slug guy. He kills the demon that got Corcus that turns into a nude woman, or whatever your desire is.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
That
was a really short one.
Right there.
It was literally the butterfly. It was like 2 pages from what I recall.
No, I think he kills the butterfly in pursuit of Casca.
Is that?
Yeah, that's Lost Children.
Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't remember that. I kind of still consider that the Black Swordsman arc, but yeah, no, you're right. It's more accurate to say he's out of the
right,
Black
because
Swordsman.
Farnes's troop finds the bodies of the dead kids at that point.
So I'm so like I knew that wasn't going to make it in the anime. I know the less said the better, but I knew there was no way that arc was going to make it in the anime, and I was still hoping.
Oh yeah, dude, there's so much in the anime that I was hoping would make it, dude.
Anything that happens to children normally does not make TV, right?
Right.
Lame.
I know, right? It's like, that's
just
not how it was written.
Well, just because it was like, it had, there was payoffs.
True.
Yes.
True. All right, guys, that is nearing the end of our pod play. But before we end it, do you guys have any last thoughts?
You know what? I mean, yeah, there's a lot to say. There's a lot going through my mind, but you know what? Let's think about this. One, I think everyone should try to be okay with the fact that Berserk may never get a proper ending, because look at it this way. Whoever tries to fill those shoes, it's going to be disappointing. It's not going to live up to whatever headcanon that we all have, right?
It's possible his story might have been disappointing by the end for what we wanted. Like, look at Attack on Titan and stuff.
He could totally pull a, what happened to Game of Thrones, and it could all fall apart in the end. And, We all remember the Amoeba Pirates and how fucking long we were on that boat, you know?
Yeah.
I'm so glad.
Yeah.
I
There
didn't
was a
ride that
small
boat.
blip in time where I was like, damn, Berserk ain't good anymore. And you know, that eventually turned around. Thank
Right.
God. Thank the God hand. But so don't just try to be okay with where Berserk is, and two, maybe it's time we shed some light on other good dark epics that maybe don't get talked about as much.
That
You
are
know?
overshadowed by Berserk.
That might be overshadowed, or ones that are inspired by Berserk that just don't get talked about as much, you know?
Fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
How's you got any last thoughts?
A horrible tragedy. I mean, it's been tragedy after tragedy lately, but you know, this was. Don't I just skimming online and seeing how people are with like the assistants and stuff, and just people should not. They're already grieving enough. Like everybody's just in such agony over this shock that.
Yeah.
Be happy that we are where we are. Like, hell, we could even look at this. Like, the last panel that could be an ending where we're at. Like, it's not a satisfying ending, and they decided to stay in Elfheim, but it's not the worst ending that could have happened. And just,
Right.
I'm very grateful to have been able to get in, see, and have an experience of a story like this. It's been incredible, and it's sad that it'll never finish, most likely, but it started. I mean, it's a life's work. It's you can feel the blood, sweat, and tears poured into this by Miura. I pronounce him differently every time.
It's been going for over 30 years.
And there's just too much to say in reality.
Yeah. He will be missed. He has a lot of fans.
There'll never be another.
No, there won't. He was very unique. He was a very unique writer. One of the best I've ever seen, and he will be missed. Yeah, and his artwork as well. The talent just oozed out of him. It was insane.
I actually have a better last words that I could say. I was pretty despondent and kind of distraught that on what was it, Monday.
Yeah.
And I ended up just like talking to one of my coworkers about it, and I just ended up showing her a bunch of the artwork from particularly when the great roar of the astral plane happens, when everything starts merging, and she was like, "Oh my god, this is beautiful." Mm-hmm. No context to Berserk, just saw this artwork, like the dragon on the tower, the weird witch hat with all the things on it. I don't even know how to describe what the fuck that is. All these different things, and just were blown away at the quality of it. And I think that's really the best thing that could ever be said about his artistic skills.
Yes, I've always said that my favorite pictures is the hordes of demons that he draws, because at first glance it just looks like this mess of ink and body parts and limbs, but then when you look closely, you can see every single individual demon. And it's that cool feeling of seeing a horde of things, and that's what it looks like. It's, at first glance, it just looks like a mess, but each one is unique and special, you know? It's...
Who knows what their story is.
Right. And I have not seen an artist put that much detail in... Because it's almost telling a story in a picture as well. It's unfathomable to me how much effort and detail he put into that story. And I'm glad he did.
He was a true artist to every sense of the word.
Very, very much so. But that is going to be the end here. We were joined by MulletWesker and Hauser. You can find MulletWesker at twitch.tv/MulletWesker. And you can find Hauser at youtube.com/HauserChillinPlays. Thank you for joining me, guys. It was a blast. Rest in peace, Miura. You will be missed. You were a legend among legends. But until next time, guys, read some Berserk. Enjoy what we are left with. Much love. Have an excellent day.